Hi, everyone. Welcome to Author Chat, or welcome back if you've been here before. I am super excited today to have my first children's book author, Kenny Wilson. Hi, Kenny.
Hey Terry, how's it going?
Good. And Kenny hails to us from up in northern Canada. I'm super excited. He's my first Canadian author as well.
That's
His
right.
children's book titles are, let's see here, you have Tommy and the Christmas Coal and the Rabbit Girl series. It's a series of picture books.
That's right.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about your series?
Yeah, for sure. I guess we should start right from the beginning. I had started telling a story to my daughter one night about a little boy who wants to get coal for Christmas, and I wanted to come up with a good twist. So the reason is that his parents only have enough coal to heat their home till Christmas morning. So he tries to get on a naughty list to uh, to get coal because Santa delivers. And everything he does backfires because I wasn't going to teach my daughter to be bad, right? So he of course backfires, and all the bad things he tries to do backfires and becomes good deeds, and that kind of that bedtime story kind of evolved into uh, the book that it is today. And then after that, she was really into rabbits, and she would carry this little stuffed animal with her all the time, this little bunny, and she had a little bunny sweater. So I wrote a book about a little girl who becomes a superhero when she eats her vegetables, and that's the story of Rabbit Girl. And so the book kind of takes this little girl on this story, and even though she's got super strength and she's invulnerable, she's still vulnerable on the inside. So the first book has to do with how she doesn't think that she can be a hero because everything she does is clumsy, like anybody would be if you suddenly got vaulted strength, right? You just don't wake up the next morning able to do amazing things, right? You got to train and practice. So she's just on the verge of quitting when she finds out that her school's under attack by a troll. So she has to rise to the occasion. And on her way from her house to her school, she's fighting the whole time with her self doubt until finally she says, "Nope, I'm Rabbit Girl. I'm not this little girl that can't do something. I am a hero," and she saves the day. And then the book kind of goes on from there. And just before Christmas, because so many people were asking me for more Rabbit Girl content because I have so many little fans out there, I decided to create an online comic. So the online comic actually picks up the story right after she becomes Rabbit Girl in the first book and goes right up to Clever Ginny, which is the second book. And at some point, maybe in May or June, I'm not exactly sure on the date because I'm still working on my story. I'm planning on segueing into the Troll King, which is the next book that I'm planning on putting out from the series. So that would be the fourth book. It may come out just as a comic, or I may put it out as a book and the comic online. Uh, right now, I really want to create value for my readers and my fans. So everything that I'm doing moving forward are all going to be available online at no charge to come see.
And so, how many you have? Was it three of the Rabbit Girls in physical book form?
Yes,
Four.
I have. I have one book, Tommy and the Christmas Cold, and then I have three more Rabbit Girls.
Okay, all right. I like I like the kid who comes up with the getting the coal, getting on the naughty list to get coal to heat his house. That is super cute. I like that a lot.
I actually I wrote it as a movie script. It's I've done the second draft already. I did that over Christmas too. I was so busy watching a comic, and of course it's a Christmas rush, so you're out at the markets and that trying to promote yourself there as well. And on top of that, I wrote this script, and I could tell you that I'm so excited to put the script together. If anybody out there is listening and like to make it into a movie, I'd love to work with you because it's there's more story I was able to fit into it, because when you're writing a picture book, you have your story and then you have to kind of condense it down to a
Yeah,
nice little package, especially for kids, because you can't, if it's too long, you're going to lose them, right? So
right.
uh, I was able to finish, like, completely tell the story. So it was exciting.
So, what is the age range of children you're targeting with your books?
It really depends on the reader, but I gear them for anywhere from kindergarten to grade 3. The Rabbit Girl series is set up as a light comic. When I say light, each panel is 1 page, so it's not it doesn't have a bunch of panels and stuff. So there's not a lot of story for the kids to follow. So it makes it easy for them to follow.
Okay. All right. So yeah, like a picture book
Exactly.
for the little ones there. And what drew, other than making that up for your daughter, what drew you to then continue to write these more stories for children?
Well, it's I'm sure any parent out there will attest to when you're a parent, everything kind of revolves around your kids. So that's why I write children's books, is because of my daughter. Um, I imagine if I didn't have my daughter, I'd probably write a different genre. I'd always wanted to be a writer when I was younger, but what I lacked, just like Rabbit Girl in the first series, was the confidence to do it. I always felt that I was never good enough. And it wasn't until I hit my 40s that I realized that, hey, wait a minute, maybe I do have something to offer people and a story to tell.
Yes, sounds very creative. And that's what I was going to ask you, if you had always been a writer. So, but this is, wanted to beforehand, but had you ever actually tried to write a story previously?
Oh yes, I did. I tried to write a novel, but like I said, the confidence wasn't there, so I would never get past the first intro of the story. I didn't. I don't know if this is the right word, but I as a person had to kind of develop the flavor in order to be able to put out the work. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's like, well, there's dedication to actually sitting down and writing, and then you got to tell a story progression, and you have to forgive yourself for telling a bad story and go back and rewrite it later. Uh,
Yeah.
Sometimes getting through that, you know, lump
Right. The
of coal.
persevere. Yes.
Yeah,
Perseverance to go overcome all of that self doubt. And then you know, it does take a certain amount of, um, not even necessarily confidence, but at least willingness to put it out there. Because once it's out there, people give their opinions, So
yeah, you got, it takes guts, because
guts, that's what I'm looking
people are gonna tell you, you know, this sucks.
for. Yeah.
And usually it's the person sitting in the mirror. It's funny. I remember when I first wrote the Rabbit Girl series, the first book, there was a big part of me that thought this just isn't good enough. And people would come up to me and tell me how much they love the books and the kids love the books. And I remember at the beginning, I was sitting here thinking, it's my book you're talking about, right? Because I could tell you all the problems with it.
Yeah.
But people, you'll never meet a critic as tough as you are on yourself.
And that's
So you
true.
just, yeah, you just got to be willing to tell your story, and just accept, like, there's so many movies that you go see uh that lack in story. They're still entertaining.
Yeah.
And there's so many books and classics that have been written that have plot holes in them, and you could sit there and nitpick, and we know that there's certain genres that get nitpicked more than others, but it's like, if somebody else can have that layer of forgiveness to actually enjoy the story, even though something's not quite right, you have to be willing to accept that somebody might be willing to do that for you as well.
Oh, that's a good tip for people watching who might be scared to put out their stuff.
That's right.
So tell me, do any of your stories, are they based from your own childhood?
Well, you know that it's just as well as I do that anything we write is something that we're experiencing at some level, anyways. But no, I don't think so. I've never been a little girl or a superhero. So, but like I could tell you that the first Rabbit Girl series, she fought self-doubt, because at the time my daughter was facing that same thing, and I could see her, like, she'd want to go down a slide, but she was scared of the slide, so she didn't. And when I finally convinced her to overcome that fear and just try it, she fell in love with the slide. She loved going down the slide. It was lots of fun, right? But it was to get over that first bump and experience that courage that and then I wanted to tell that story to help other kids, because I know it's just not my daughter that experiences these things.
That's true. So when you start a story, do you know how it's going to end?
Sometimes. uh Sometimes I do. Tommy the Christmas Cole, I knew how it was going to end because I wanted it to be a happy ending. Sometimes I don't. Uh, well, it's hard to say because my process I stew. So right now I've got about 4 or 5 different stories right now that are stewing in my mind,
Okay.
and every now and then I'll think about it. And then what I like to do is I'll sit down and I'll kind of plan out how I want to tell it. So I actually did that with Rabbit Girl, with the comic. I'm all the way out to April right now, and then I realized I forgot a part of the story, so I gotta rearrange things. That's why I'm not sure when we're gonna get to the Troll King, but because I haven't written it all yet. But you kind of have to know where you're going, but sometimes in the process of getting there, where you're going changes, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yes, it definitely does make sense. So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess it's going to depend. My next question was how long does it take you to complete your books? But you're a little up in the air on, but completing the next one. So, how long has it taken you to complete your other Rabbit Girl stories?
To write the story, it didn't take me very long, uh, uh, because a picture book is usually a page and a half of text,
Okay.
and then you're going to rewrite it over and over again until you get it to where you want it. So you play around with that can take, like actually sitting down and writing, that could take like a month, maybe a little bit longer, and then you want to bring it to an editor and get all that other stuff checked out, because sometimes you'll hit on things that you shouldn't be hitting on, and you need someone else to sit there and say, don't do that. Because it's like Rabbit Girl, she's invulnerable, but originally I described it as bulletproof, and I had an editor say that's probably not a good term to use considering the crisis going on in the world right now, and which is something that I didn't really consider. Like, I live in Canada,
Yeah.
it's not something that we deal with as much here as you guys would, for example. So I had to take out all those references and then figure out how am I going to say that without saying it. So like that part takes a while. Uh, but before I get there, I'm usually 6 months just stewing in my head, getting the idea around. Um, Sometimes I'll get an idea and I'll play with it for a while, and then I'll realize it's no good, so I'll just get rid of it. So that's typically my process. And then illustrating is what takes the most time.
Yeah. Yeah. So and we'll get to illustrating here in a minute. What do you think makes a story, interesting to children? What appeals to children there, especially in, say, a Rabbit Girl story?
Wow, that's a that's a
Think
good
about.
question. I don't know if I've actually ever sat down and thought like that. Probably put so much pressure on myself trying to write a story that appeals to just telling one. Um, you need to capture a child's imagination. That's the number one thing, because like the cool thing about writing for kids is they will take your story so much further than you ever will. Like, we all experienced it. I remember as a kid, my mom my mom tells a story. I must have been 4 or 5, and I was big on Superman, like a lot of kids were back in the 80s. And I had 4 pairs of pants on and 6 pairs of underwear. And I'd wear a pair of underwear on the outside, and I'd have the little blanket around, and I'd be flying around the house, and I'd be Superman. That's because they captured my imagination. And so whatever you write, you want to be able to capture that imagination and involve the kids. I like to try and put morals in my story to teach little lessons, because at that age it's a great time for kids to get that. So the first Tommy and the Christmas Call is about a little boy who's selfless, and he selflessly sacrifices his toys and tries to get coal for Christmas. Like not really fun, but he's doing it to help out mom and dad.
Right.
So if you can help kids understand that sometimes you're going to do things in life that suck for you, but it's a major gift for somebody else. If you could teach that to kids, it's something that has a lot of value. And if you put that into a story that captures their imagination, and then they'll learn that lesson over and over again without even realizing it. So it's really
Sort of
yeah,
sneaking it in there without them realizing they're being taught to.
yeah.
That's
It's like when mom used to put the medicine in with the ice cream.
um, and you've mentioned an illustrator. So, previously you've worked with an illustrator and now you're doing your own illustrations. What was your process when you worked with an illustrator?
uh, I had always illustrated. When I first started timing the Christmas call, I was originally illustrating myself,
Hmm.
but like my books, I had to kind of develop as an artist. I hadn't drawn in years, and to suddenly decide that not only am I going to write books now, but I'm going to draw them as well was I don't want to use the word arrogant, but ignorant. Ignorant's probably a better word because it's just such a learning curve. Uh,
Right.
um, so the process that I usually would use is I would storyboard all my artwork and I would send it to my illustrator and say, this is how I want it to look. And then her name's Riza. She's from the Philippines. She's an amazing artist. I would definitely recommend her to anybody who's interested in children's book art because she's amazing. She would do all the artwork, send it over to me, and then I would either yay or nay it. And it's amazing the appreciation you suddenly develop for art when you start doing that. I remember I was at my doctor's office and I was looking at the paintings on the wall. And because I had spent so much time looking and editing the art that I was getting from my illustrator, I kind of got an eye for it. And so I started talking about his paintings. I'm like, these are wonderful paintings. It turned out he was the one who was painting them. And it turned into this huge conversation. And I had been in that same office a dozen times and never noticed the paintings, and they were up there the whole time, right? So it's uh, you kind of fall in love with art and how people put things together and their composition. It's amazing, anyways.
And so you guys would go back and forth then on things until the art and the words were exactly how you wanted them?
I would love to say that, yes.
Or,
At some points you're on a deadline too,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I'm self-published, so I'm the guy who sets the deadline. But you're not going to drop everything and run for another month, so that way you can get some things fixed. So there was actually one art work that she did. She completely went against what I had wrote. I can't remember what it was. I think Rabbit Girl was kicking somebody or something like that, and she had him doing the people's elbow or something like that on one of the trolls. So I had to rewrite. I did a rewrite because it was less work for me to rewrite that than it was for her to redraw that. So you have to be willing to work with your artist and accept that sometimes their eye and their artwork is going to add to the story, and it's better for you as a writer to change what you've written than it is for her as the artist to change what she's drawn.
Okay, all right. So do you have any advice for writers who are looking for illustrators to work with?
Relationships. Build a relationship with the person that you want to work with. If you meet somebody and their art's amazing, but you could tell already that you're not going to get along with them,
Mhm.
find somebody else. You're better off to have somebody whose um, artwork's not the same caliber as, let's say, the person that you're not getting along with, but have that strong relationships. That way, when you don't like something that they're doing, you could sit down and have a frank discussion with them, as opposed to having the other person who you're not going to get along with them, and you try and have that discussion, and it doesn't go the way that you were hoping.
Right. And on the kind of the same vein, any advice for any aspiring children's writers?
Start telling stories. That's that's the most important thing. Tell your stories to kids, and if you can get them to listen to the end of the story, you got something there.
Good one. And so, do you have any? Okay, we've covered what you're going to do next. You have an upcoming another Rabbit Girl book, right? This coming up. Do you have anything planned for after that, or do you plan that far in advance?
I I actually I have another book that I was working on. I was planning on having it out this month actually, and then I realized I had way too much on the go,
Okay.
so I kind of eased back because I was illustrating and writing it and doing a comic at the same time, and everything else I was doing, it was just too much, and I actually kind of burned myself out. I had to take a little break from everything. Um, it's called Mitchell and the Mountain of Mittens. It's about a little boy who loses his mittens, and he goes on this grand adventure in order to find his mitts. So that's a book that's coming out at some point once I get my process back up to speed here. And then I have a few other characters I want to do, but my game plan, I think, in the long run, would be to put out my books as like a weekly comic, and then either at the end, at the conclusion of the comic, or once per month, compile it into a book and put it up on Amazon, because a lot of parents want their kids to read physical books. So
Mhm.
it is on my plan to do that. I'm going to do the same thing with the Rabbit Girl comics. I just need to figure out what my process is. I applied for an art grant for the Troll King. So I have to wait to find out what's going on with that before I can make any creative decisions with what's going on. Because if I'm successful with the grant, then I'm limited in my control. It'd be just like having a publisher, right?
Okay.
I'd have to run it by them to see what they say. If it was up to me, I would love to release the Troll King as an actual comic, and then put it into a book afterwards, and then make it nice and complete, and then we can go forward with the comic once per month after that. But like I said, there's a few things that have to happen first before I can make any decisions about what I want to do.
Okay. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Um, where can readers find out more about you and your work?
You can go to kennywilson.ca, or follow me on social media. I'm Kenny Wilson author on Facebook and Mr. Kenny Wilson on Instagram.
Great. And as usual, I will have all of Kenny's information and links down there in the description below. Be sure to check that out. And on Kenny's website, he is offering the autographed copies of his books. Definitely grab you some of those and some cute Rabbit Girl merch I'd spied on there when I was looking. So definitely check out his website and support an indie author. Give us a like if you like this video and subscribe for more author interviews. Kenny, I thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
And guys, I will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.